Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom, where we bring you engaging conversations and respectful disagreement across the social spectrum.
Injected with the quirks of everyday life.
Curl up as we navigate the complexities of this modern world with all the humor and warmth we can muster.
And the occasional gentle ribbing. We're glad you're here. Happy listening.
I've been thinking lately about how people enter a room. Not really whether they're shy or outgoing, because I don't think that's quite it, but how they decide when and where to engage. I'm someone who has a tendency to watch first. I want to at least feel like I understand the room, the people, the dynamics, the mood before I start to interact. And that's been true since I was a kid, and it's still the case now. And I think that that's read as me being less social, but I'm not sure that that's quite fair or accurate.
And I think that's where this gets interesting because I don't experience myself as unsocial either. I just know that I'm most comfortable when I have a role and there's a reason for me to step in. Give me something to do, somebody to help, a task to own, and I'm suddenly much more at ease. That's always been my entry point. So today, I want us to talk about how none of those approaches are better or worse. They're just different ways of connecting and different ways of finding belonging.
And then there's me. I tend to jump in a little faster, not loudly, not always dramatically, but definitely with curiosity. A compliment here, a question there, a willingness to start the interaction and see where it goes. That's how I make sense of people. And while that served me well, I've also looked at both of you and thought, I wish I had a little bit more of Cole's insight or a little bit more of Mecca's purpose. So today we're talking about the social interaction spectrum, how we each fall on it, what it's given us, what it's cost us, and why understanding your own style might be way more useful than trying to change it. Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom. I'm Callie.
I'm Cole.
And I'm Mom. I mean, we started talking about this because we all went to this same event and kind of watched how each of us functioned within that event. And that's where we kind of went, oh.
Well, and I think that as is always the case, hindsight is 2020. Once we started talking about it, I could start going back to other situations and go, oh, yeah, that is always how Cole handles it. That does make Mom more included in everything. Like she does put herself in that position. And so I feel like it was so interesting to start discovering those things, not only about myself even, but about you guys, and start putting together how not only it makes sense for us each individually based on our personalities, but how those different types of interactions and different places on the spectrum could again be leveraged by each of us.
Yeah. We kind of started talking about when Cole was little, when he first started school and you took him into a classroom that first day of school, he would go and sit down. He would do whatever the activity was, but he was watching everything else go on in that room. And he was very quiet. And he would go and he was in no way disruptive. He was in no way unkind. And I got to where I started watching him. And it would take him a certain period of time. And then there was this point, you could almost see like a little switch flip that he would go, I know what's going on. And then he would begin to participate. And that's kind of what we started talking about, which led to us looking at our own ways. When you said to me having a task to do, I thought, oh, yeah. If I think about going to, work functions, to go to a work party, if I had a job to do at that work party, there was no question about going in and being comfortable. But if I had to just go in and be a guest at that party, it wasn't always comfortable.
Well, we talked about personality types here a little while ago, and I think it's really easy to classify somebody as they're an extrovert or they're an introvert, even they're an ambivert. And I don't think that it's nearly that cut and dry. I don't think that we can sit here and only take those 2, 3 different versions of somebody's personality and say,
Yeah.
oh, those are the only buckets that you have to fit in. Pick one. I think that that's very much oversimplifying it. So I also think that, Mom, just now you're sitting here talking about Cole walking into a classroom. Like you said, though, Cole isn't mean. He isn't unkind. He
He's
wasn't,
obedient.
he wasn't being antisocial. He was just doing some research first before deciding where to go and how to move forward.
Yeah. And I think he still does that.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that, like, in the grand scheme of things, there is definitely a difference between observing and initiating. And I think we could sit here and go through the three of us. And I suspect that listeners could do that pretty simply. Once you start kind of putting it into perspective, you can sit here and go, I'm more of an observer. Yeah. Okay. You don't have to be antisocial to be an observer. You don't have to
Right.
be an extrovert to be initiating conversation. Cole is definitely an observer. I am tired of things like feeling awkward. I don't want that awkward stuff. I don't want to have to sit there and wait. So I tend to jump in a little bit faster. Oh, let me go and start this conversation. Let me kickstart all of this. And so I think that when it really boils down to it, there are lots of ways to come to a conclusion. We just do them different ways.
And some of that's life experience. I just spent the weekend with a friend of mine who was one of the shyest people ever. I mean, she did not talk to anybody outside of her little group. And I sat there and watched her this weekend. She talked to everybody in the room. She went and introduced herself. And I looked up at her husband one time, who was standing there very quietly. And I said, what happened? Because she was so quiet and so shy.
When she was
And
growing up.
now, yes. And now then it's like she doesn't even know that there's anything like that. And he said they made a major move into a new area that she didn't know anyone and it struggled with it. But she met a group of women and he said, and those women talk a lot. And all of a sudden, she's picked up on that. And it has literally changed her dynamic when she's in a crowd. It was fascinating, awe-inspiring to watch, to know her when she was little and to watch her at this point with no fear. She just introduced herself to everybody and had conversations with them all. I thought maybe it had been something corporate that she'd learned in the course of her job. He said, no, it was this group of women. And she later said she'd made a decision that she was going to have friends in this new area and that it was up to her to do that.
I think there's a pretty significant amount of bravery that has to go into that.
Yeah.
This is all I know. I don't know how to talk to people, but I want something different for myself in my life in this situation. I will figure it out.
It was awe-inspiring.
I bet it was.
It really was. It was funny, but it was also because it was just so distinctly different. But I think if you talk to anybody that we went to school with, they would automatically tell you that she was one of the shyest people that they knew. She just didn't have those conversations. Super nice lady, very intelligent,
Quiet.
just shy.
Well, I think that there is a difference. And that's why we were talking about this really being on a spectrum. Because again, not only is it not just one bucket or two buckets, whatever it may be, but there's a difference between being the least social and being awkward or being withdrawn. I mean, when you're talking about Cole walking into a classroom as a kid, there was nothing withdrawn. He isn't
No.
awkward in those situations. He's
No.
just taking a temperature reading first.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that because to some people it is awkward. It's not to me. Like I can go somewhere, sit next to someone, never exchange a word with them, and it's not awkward. Like it's not weird. I don't have a reason to interact with them. Now, if something comes up, I have no problem interacting with them. But like I can sit in that awkward silence and it doesn't feel awkward. It just, there's no reason to interact.
I mean, I'm kind of the opposite in that scenario. Am I talking to every single person that I ever come in contact to?
Yeah, probably.
No, absolutely not. Shut up. Nobody asked you. But Mom and I were walking out of a store the other day, and completely unprompted, somebody walking in the store started talking to me. I just responded.
And we had totally different reactions, didn't we?
Yes.
I mean, like, I wanted to go on the next aisle over and not
To
even
avoid her.
acknowledge. And you responded. And
we had a
like,
good laugh.
and y'all did have a good laugh. And I loved the comment. So I'm not complaining about it now.
Yeah. I mean, part of that leads me to my kind of comfort zone of being curious and letting that curiosity drive the engagement. Because what did she say? What did she mean by that? Why does
You
she
think
think
that's
that?
what it is? Curiosity?
Oh, yeah. I think that that's also why I'm absolutely horrible to watch any kind of television show with or movie. I'm like, oh, let me pause and look that up really quick. Oh, hold on. Where did I see them from? Oh, I didn't know about that. Let me go read about it really quick.
Hey, did you know
Because
that?
I'm just,
Let's
no,
chat
I'm
about that.
curious. I'm nosy. Yeah, I stop all the time.
It's
It used to be
very
a running joke.
difficult to take a nap with you while you're watching TV.
Eventually, I'll figure out that you're not interested and just do it by myself. I still pause and do all of my searching, but you're
Yeah.
asleep, so you don't notice.
Yeah.
One of the other interesting parts of this that I thought was so interesting, as we were having this conversation about where each of us falls on that social spectrum, the two of you very much debated as to who is the least social.
You're right. We did. And I think Mom made a valid point. I think she is less social than I am generally because I'm not really quiet. Like you can ask the people that I work with. Once I figure out the dynamic in a group, can't get me shut up. Like
That's not exactly true, but
I mean, it's pretty close. Once I figure out what's going on and am comfortable, I'm definitely not the quiet type. I just have to understand that dynamic first.
yeah,
Would you say you are, Mom?
I am less social.
The
Yeah.
quiet type with people that you know.
Depends on the setting. I mean, in a work situation, I'm probably not going to be the person who doesn't say anything. You know, if somebody asks a question, I'm going to answer. I work with two other people who very rarely ever say anything in a meeting. And so, because I've worked there for a while, that's not a problem for me to express my opinion there. And I will also say, often think, you need to shut up. And I don't really think I'm overwhelming with that, but they are so quiet that it's certainly a juxtaposition. But in a new situation, yeah, I'm going to be the quiet one in the crowd. I'm that person who, if you want to meet me, you need to come to me. I'm not going to come to you and just introduce myself unless somebody is threatening me with bodily harm. You know, then I might if I have to. But I also don't need people. Like, you need people. I can go days without that kind of interaction, and you start turning into, a wrinkly fruit
Hey, now.
with a very, sorry, that didn't sound right, did it? But I mean, you get real itchy if you don't have interaction with people. I don't do that.
Well, I think that is, and again, we talked about this in the personality test conversation. I think that has to do with how I recharge. I do not recharge at a concert with 10,000 other people at all.
Yeah.
But I also do not recharge just sitting here minding my own business, quietly reading a book all day long. Heck, I can sit here, even if I was really, really desperate, I could sit here and watch out the window and start making up stories about the people who were driving by, walking down the street. And I do. I used to go to a park for lunch and I would make up all kinds of stories about people who would wander by because I just needed some kind of interaction, even if it was kind of one-sided. I needed something that wasn't just Callie.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if really it's even appropriate to ask if Cole or I are less social. We're just on different places, and I hate to use the word spectrum, but we're just in different places of how we interact.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've seen Cole go to a party and not speak to a soul.
That also
And
makes me itch.
and he is completely comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
And I worry and think, "Oh, is he not having fun? What do I need to do?" And he's totally cool and fun.
If I was uncomfortable, I would leave.
We just respond differently.
I wonder how much, and this is going to kind of throw a wrench into our planned conversation here, but I wonder how much of that is male versus female. Because I think if you really look at it to an extent, women are taught from a very young age to maintain decorum, to be polite. I have a really hard time sitting here getting into my head through the process of saying, oh, well, I'm uncomfortable. I'm going to leave, because that's rude. You don't just leave someone's party. They've invited you. You need to spend time there and be there and enjoy and contribute to that camaraderie.
There are polite ways to leave.
I mean, yeah, but
I don't really see it. I mean, I understand what you're saying about women being taught about decorum and maintaining the peace and that kind of thing, but I don't really see this uniquely as female versus male.
okay.
Do you?
Not really. Like, I get what you're saying, and I think that certainly that can impact interactions at times. I don't think it's inherent or biologic.
Mm-mm.
So kind of going back a little bit, we talked about Cole. Cole walks into a new classroom. He's going to observe first. He's going to watch those dynamics and those personalities. He's going to look for who he can be safe with, all of this. He's going to invest a lot more socially after he develops that trust or the interest is established in those situations, in those people. And I think in the grand scheme of things, he's going to probably make fewer connections than somebody like me. But I think that those connections that he does make will be much more satisfying and deeper connections.
Yeah, I want to try and frame it this way. And this is going to sound kind of rude, and it kind of is. There's a reason that I'm observing first. It's because I want to see who is worth engaging with.
I get that.
I want to say, hey, this person over here, we have very few things in common. We have very few interests alike. From a surface level standpoint, the likelihood of us being able to engage and become friends, relatively low. Even if we do, what am I gaining from that? And like it sounds really transactional, and it's not really the point. But like, I want to try and gauge the
ROI.
yeah, kind of. It's
But
more than that, though.
when you were 5 or 6 years old, you weren't thinking about ROI or what that person could contribute.
He may not have had the name for it.
Not consciously, but I do think that was the intent still.
Okay.
So then you've got me, and I'm going to be much faster to hop in. I'm not, again, not loud or not domineering, but I'm certainly open. I'm curious about what's going on. I am fast with the compliment, especially after reading Shonda Rhimes' Year of Yes. I believe that compliments are really powerful. And so I may be walking in or out of the grocery store and see a woman who has a cute dress on, and I know that it would make my day if somebody said something to me about it. So I'm going to do that to her. Hey, I really like your dress. That looks great on you. Your hair's
Yeah.
beautiful. And they're always genuine. I'm not just sitting here making shit up for the sake of conversation, but I'm going to toss out a compliment because I think that I'm an encourager. I think that they feel good to receive. So why wouldn't I want to share that with someone? But I think that part of that also comes with a willingness to risk rejection. I'm so hoping for the connection that I'm willing to risk them going, weirdo, why are you looking at my dress? Ugh,
But
this is strange. Why are you talking to me?
We also talked earlier that that's also a little bit hard for people to understand that it's genuine, that it's not manipulation.
Yes.
And so I think that's where your struggle is. It's innate to you, but it's not innate for people to receive necessarily. So I think there's a hesitation there
On the receiving end of that.
on the receiving end.
Yes.
It's really interesting because I'm sitting here kind of thinking about this. When I interact with someone, if I'm going to give them a compliment, it's probably like, yeah, if you've got really cool shoes, you've got really cool shoes. But more often, it's going to be on like how you did something, how you execute. Like, hey, you did this really, really well. That was very impressive. And I want to make sure you know that. It would be much less common for me to say, hey, I like your tie. Hey, I like your jacket. It is, hey, that presentation you gave was awesome. Hey, the way you ran out that pool table, that was awesome. You did a really good job executing whatever it was. That's where I'm going to compliment someone instead of like on the surface.
Which I think is totally valid and accurate. I don't disagree at all. I think that that is kind of illustrating the differences between us. You're willing to wait for the pool table to be run. You're willing to wait for the conference to be given, the speech to be given, whatever it may be. I jump in a lot faster. So I don't have all of that knowledge to go off of, oh man, they did a great job executing that speech.
And that's
But
not to say
their
that you
tie is
won't say
nice.
that later.
Then, yeah.
But you're gonna jump into that conversation much faster than either one of us would.
Yeah. And I think part of that, again, is just because I like being on the receiving end of those things. If I know that you're about to go give a speech, the speech isn't done yet. I don't know that you're going to rock it and you're going to do a good job.
Yeah.
But if I put that little tiny morsel of encouragement in your ear, you might walk out with your shoulders back a little further, with your chin up a little higher, and rock that conference, rock that speech. I think that you're right, Mom. I think that in a lot of applications, people think that what I am doing isn't sincere, isn't genuine until they get to know me. And then they're like, oh, she
That
actually
really is her.
meant that.
Yeah.
She is that. And I'm never going to lie to you. I'm never going to tell you a falsehood. But I think that that's very uncommon in today's day and age. I don't think that there are a lot of people who address the world and strangers the same way that I do. And we talked about it just the other day, talking about travel. I think that in some ways it tends to be very disarming to people. I don't know if I can take that seriously or not. And then by sentence number 3, you're like, she's still here.
Yeah.
And I am, with a smile on my face, happy to jump in and encourage, happy to support.
Okay, from my perspective, that might sound a little bit different, like, oh, she is still here.
And sometimes I'm sure it is.
I'm sure that it is.
So I've had this thought while you were talking. I get an email and it's, hi, Mecca. I hope you are having a lovely day. Blah, 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 blah. Blow smoke, blow smoke, blow smoke. And I'm like, what do you want?
More than one sentence, and it's too much. Hey, hope you're doing well today. This is what I need from you.
Yes.
This is why I can't email y'all.
Yes. And I think on the other side of that, though, is if I'm going to email you, I most likely already know you. So I already know you. I'm just going to say, hey, can you get these numbers for me by the end of the day? If you're having a bad day, then it's on you to respond and go, Mecca, I'm having a crap day. I can't do that today. And I would be going, I am so sorry. How can I help you? But I'm not going to start out that whole thing of, oh, did you have a good Christmas? How are your kids? That's not ever going to come out of my mouth or my email.
I'm
And
not
it
going to do
makes
it
me
in
nutty.
email.
At the
Oh,
water
it makes me
cooler, maybe.
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, maybe.
But like if I'm messaging you at work, it's because we have work to do.
Yeah. And Callie, it could be the same thing. If you go and you say that, there is a sincerity there. If I go and say that,
It's
it,
You
bullshit.
don't mean it.
no, I'm just responding to you. I don't really care.
I am not a
Yeah.
blower of smoke or a
Start,
rainbows and unicorns kind of guy.
For the
no,
record, neither am I.
no. And that's what I'm saying. We could say the same words,
And it
but
would be
our
fake.
intentions are totally different. You really mean, hey, how are you? And I'm not. I don't. I don't mean that. I just felt guilty for not doing it.
Well, and I think that that kind of goes back into your personality in and of itself. I think that that comfort in social settings for you comes with a role. If somebody reaches out to you, especially via email, and says, hey, Mecca, I need you to take care of this,
Okay.
there's no smoke to be blown.
Yeah.
Mecca's going to get to work and get it taken care of. You know it's going to be done well. You know she's going to ask any questions about anything that she has. You give her a job and she's in. She's ready to go.
That is so accurate.
Isn't it weird?
Mhm.
Once you kind of put a name to it, you go, oh my gosh, that's who I am. And I don't think that it's that one or any of us is doing it the right way or doing it a
No.
wrong way. It's just that we're different.
Yeah.
You know, you say that. Sometimes I do think I'm doing it the wrong way. Like, I have to force myself and check myself constantly because I have a buddy that I've spoken about him on the podcast before. Nathan is much more like Callie. In fact, he's probably past Callie. Like Nathan could literally talk to a rock and become friends with it.
Yeah.
And I've
that's
talked
true.
about that before on the podcast. But one of the reasons he's so good at making friends is, again, like Callie, he genuinely cares. Hey, man, how are you? What's been up? What's going on in your life? I don't
wanna
ask
know.
that question. And it's not because I don't care. It's because I expect you to just tell me what's going on without me asking. But
Yeah.
he is polite enough that he's usually not going to just unload that without being prompted. So he'll ask me, hey, man, what's going on? How are you? What's been going on in your life this week? And I'll respond. And then 10 or 15 minutes later, I'll catch myself and I'm like, you were such a jackass. You didn't ask him back. So then I have to go and be like, hey, man, I'm sorry. I should have asked you. How are you?
And how does he respond in those moments? Hey, I'm sorry. How are you?
And then he goes, yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm great. Like, you're good. But he just was waiting for someone to ask.
Yeah. But I think that, again, that's part of that willingness to face the rejection that some of us who are more forward and more forthright with those feelings and emotions up front are willing to face. We're willing to tolerate that. Oh, shoot. I just asked how they were and they didn't give a shit about me. Okay. Now,
But I don't think
so
that's
the
always
cost
the
of entry is
intent.
low. I don't think it is either. I don't think it's always the intent, but I think that when it happens, we are less susceptible to it taking us down. We never sit there and go, oh shit, I was the asshole. We've already moved on to the next person to see how they're doing and to get a response out of them and to start a conversation and to carry it forward, or moved on even with the same person. Hey, I asked how he was. He told me he was good. He didn't ask how I was. Well, let me prod him some more. And we're doing it in a very gentle, kind, respectful way, but we're not going to just sit there in silence. We're not just going to sit there and go, Like people who give one-word answers. I literally cannot tell you. I have had so many conversations. Oh, God. This guy used to have this girlfriend, and we were trying to get to know her, and we were trying to be friendly, and she was new to the group, and everything was fine. And I'm that person. I'm like, so I hear you have a dog. What kind of dog do you have? And she's like, a brown one.
I can just see you going crazy, though.
And I did. And so I'm like, oh, let me tell you about this dog. And I think dogs are so cool and da 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 da. So I hear that you're a teacher. What grade do you teach? 5th. Girl, give me something here. And I
some
sit there
people
for a
don't
few
want
minutes.
that interaction, and they may
Then don't
especially not
freaking
want it
come
that
around.
fast.
Go somewhere else. Don't come around. You don't want the
Not how
interaction?
that
Don't come
works.
around.
Maybe they want to
But
watch.
It was. And she doesn't want to watch. She didn't want to be a part of anything. She also didn't last, and she's gone now. So sorry, but good night and good luck, honey. Good riddance. I mean, but I just remember sitting there going, I am trying so hard to help you here. I am giving you foothold after foothold after foothold, and you're going, nope, not interested. And so after a while, I said, okay, me neither. Sounds good. And I went somewhere else and talked to somebody else, and she sat there by herself. And then she never came back because she thought we were all mean to her. Like, bitch, this is on you. Yeah.
So you don't think it was a matter that she was shy or introverted?
I think she was shy. I think that she was introverted. And I think that it cost her a relationship.
Now, see, that's kind of sad.
It was. Not to say that she wasn't a nice girl.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea if she was a nice girl. But
So,
I just
Cole,
like...
if I look at you, and I'm not saying that you're shy or introverted, but if Callie came to you and asked those same kind of questions, you wouldn't be super forthcoming, but you would at least...
Oh, bull.
You think he'd say 5th grade? That's all
No.
he'd give you?
No, I do not. I
That's
think
what
he
I'm
would be
saying.
much more engaged.
Yeah, it's more.
Yeah,
than
that's
that.
what I'm saying. He would be more engaged.
But again,
Then
we're talking about it being on a spectrum. Like, and I
Yes.
am closer to that portion of the spectrum, but I'm not that far.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are some people, if I've walked into a completely new place and I don't know anyone, I'm probably going to be short like that with some people. If I don't have any sort of gauge on them, and if the likelihood of that interaction bearing fruit is from my perspective relatively low, I'm probably going to have pretty short answers, and I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to move along.
I started to say, but here's also the other thing with you. You're not going to blame the other people. You're not going to say they were mean to me or they were unfriendly to me.
No, I would probably be like, God, that guy was too nice.
So do you think that the delta matters where you are on the spectrum from somebody else? So I've got, let's say for number's sake, Callie's a 6. If Callie's a 6 and she's a 2, is that delta too far that we can't find common ground?
No, because I think you'll notice, like, oftentimes extroverts will collect introverts.
Okay.
Like, when you take a look at like my immediate social group, like you have Nathan and Bart, who are both very much extroverted, and the rest of us are all relatively quiet and much more introverted. And I mean, here's the thing. It's hard to be more extroverted than Nathan is. Like, it's difficult because he is just so extroverted. But like on that scale in our group, he and Bart are way over there. And I may not even be the furthest on the other side, but I'm pretty far away on that spectrum from Nathan and Bart. Until I'm around Nathan and Bart.
Yours slides closer to them?
When I'm interacting with them specifically, but it's because I know them. I know what to expect. I know what I can and can't get away with.
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, Callie, about the delta, I think that really depends on the individuals. From what Cole is saying, and from what I was thinking, even with that, you could have a person like the lady that you talked about who has no interest, and therefore she's not going to move from where
No.
she is, regardless of where she is. She's not going to move. But you could have another person, you could have my friend who was totally shy. And as you came into that group, she's going to warm up and get closer and closer and closer. And we're going to probably compensate for her shyness to some regard because we know that that makes her uncomfortable.
So it's
So I
less
think
so
it
the
depends.
delta, it's the level of stubbornness to get outside of your spot.
Well,
Now,
To a certain extent, yeah. I mean, I think that delta can play a role, but I don't think it's like the only deciding factor.
and I think stubbornness is not a nice way of saying that. I mean, if you've got somebody who just has never learned that,
and you don't think
then,
an unwillingness to learn counts as
well,
stubborn?
maybe they've never had anybody to teach them. So no,
Well,
I don't
here I
think
freaking am.
Somewhere
Now,
in the middle.
might be a little overwhelming, Gig.
well, now on the other end of the spectrum, I've got a girlfriend who I love dearly, and I cannot get a word in edgewise at all.
Maybe that's why y'all get along so well.
It is so scary to think of how far
Yes.
that is.
Yes. Well, but also think about her with the girl I was talking about a minute ago who only wanted one-word answers. That delta would be so great. They would be clawing each other's eyes out within minutes.
Oh no, she'd be smacking her right upside the head
Oh,
very
yeah.
shortly.
Yeah. She'd eat her alive.
Yeah. 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 Not just verbally. Yeah.
And publicly.
Yeah.
It would be nasty. That's why I was wondering about the delta. Like, how does that work? And a willingness to kind of, like Cole said, move and shift as you are with other people who I think that your comfort level changes and varies with. And I mean, am I this outspoken and this friendly to every single person I meet? Absolutely not. To a lot of them, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
But it does change and it does ebb and flow. And I think a willingness to be fluid with some of that means more or less depending on the situation that you're in.
Yeah.
For sure.
Interesting.
It really is.
So we've talked a lot about how we all kind of started in these situations, walking into a classroom and school as children and things like that. But what do you think it looks like when we're talking about adult life? Like we've talked a little bit about this, but how do you show up to a party or a work event? What's the first thing you're going to do when you walk into a room?
It depends on my role.
Because yours is all so dependent on that. Not that
Yeah,
that's a bad thing.
if I know, hey, my job here is to meet and greet, and I've prepped that in
Turned it
advance,
on.
I've turned it on, I can do that without any question. If I don't have a job to do when I walk into that party, most likely I'm going to identify somebody that I know, or I'm going to go sit down somewhere and wait for you to come and talk to me. And I can talk to you then, but I'm not going to go talk to you unless I have a job to do.
Yeah. I'm a little bit different, but I'm kind of similar. It depends. If we take a Christmas party, for example, and my team has a Christmas party, I'm going to be a social butterfly. I'm going to talk and chat with everyone because I already know them. Like I
Yeah.
don't have to observe. I know how those interactions are. It's going to be a relatively small group of people. I work for a very large company. If I go to a much broader company Christmas party, I'm going to be on the edges watching what's going on. And if I don't see someone that I know, I'm just going to be like, okay, later. And I'm just going to leave. So it depends.
And also, for those of you who are listening via audio, when he first said that, the social butterfly part, it was accompanied with a huge eye roll. He was not thrilled about it, but he was willing to do it. I think that that's so interesting because you've got, Cole, who's going to most likely scan the room first and foremost to figure out, is this my team? Is this a broader audience? Who do I know? What's all of this? You've got mom over here who's going to either find her person or find a job. And then you've got me who I'm Gotta figure out something and I'm gonna start talking to somebody. I don't know what's going on. Gotta start somewhere. Here we go. I just think that it's so interesting how the three of us independently characterize and address the social risk of walking into a situation, whether it's a party, whether it's somebody in an elevator that you don't know, whether it's a family gathering. Again, I don't think that it's necessarily that Cole does it wrong and Callie does it right. It's
just
that
different.
we just do it differently.
Okay. You get on a plane. You going to talk to your seatmate?
Probably not. If they talk to me, maybe. Hey, how are you? Can we just get where we're going so I can get off this plane?
Yeah. Gig's probably going to go know everybody in the row.
Yeah. She'll know the person next to her and across the aisle and in front and back of her.
I don't know that that's always the case. Now, I will say
It's a lot more for you than it is for me.
Yeah. True, fine. But I will say I have been sitting on a plane and I was sitting next to a man who was very nice and he's like, "Hey, where are you going?" And I think I was in Florida at the time, actually headed to Houston. And before you know it, he started talking to me and he pulls out his phone and is showing me all of the pictures of all of the places that he's been and all of these things like this. You guys, it was too much for me. I sat there going, "My God, why is this dude talking to me? What do you want me to do?" But I did. I maintained that decorum. I was like, "Oh, wow, that is so cool. You've been to 53 countries in the last year. That's so interesting. Where did you like the best? Who had the best food? Where would you go back to? Where didn't you love?" Because he is sitting there giving. And while it wasn't at all pertinent or relevant to me, it was something for us to do and common ground for us to share. And so I can participate in that.
So I think you could participate and would. I think I would for a moment, and then
You've
I'd
already
find
got your
something else to
headphones on.
do.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
the thing. I'm
Cole
getting
is,
on the plane with my headphones in. Like, excuse me, what?
yeah,
And that usually does the trick.
yeah.
Leave me alone.
Okay, here's my mean comment. I'm sorry, Mom. Mom's not ever taking her headphone out to say, "Excuse me, what?" She's just focused.
Well, because if you
Not
ignore
going there.
them, if you just straight up ignore them, eventually they might like poke you. If
Nobody
you
is
are very
poking me on
clear
the
that, hey, I'm not trying to engage with you by taking like, hello, what? And then put your headphone back in, they're like, oh, he doesn't want to engage.
I was at the grocery store here not too long ago with headphones in, having a grand time in the produce aisle all by myself. And before you know it, this man came up to me and started talking to me. He had me by a solid 30 years, and I knew everything about his family and his ex-wife and his education and his upbringing and all of this. I had to pull my headphones out. I bet he had me there standing in the produce aisle looking at mushrooms for 15 minutes. He told me way more about anything and everything especially him, than I ever needed to know. And he goes, "I think we should stay in touch." And I said, "I don't see what the point of that would be."
But
That's
it was a
hilarious.
struggle for you to do that, wasn't it?
It was a struggle for me to do that. He did ask 2 or 3 more times over the course of the 10 minutes, "Are you sure you don't want to stay in touch?" I said, "I am pretty sure. I just don't think that there's a reason for that." And he was like, "Well, if you don't think so," he was very polite, very persistent, but very polite. "If you don't think that we should, then we shouldn't. But if fate brings us back together, okay."
God, I sure hope it
And I will
doesn't.
tell you,
I hope that never happens.
I can't go to this grocery store anymore.
Yeah, I had to move.
when you told me that story, my brain is sitting there going, "Oh God, please tell me she did not give him her number." I was
Well,
so proud of you for not doing it.
because Mom, you and I, that reads as crazy person. And it may
Yeah.
have
It's
to
still
Callie
read as
too.
crazy person,
But you
but
know,
that's the decorum part of it. How do you get out of this politely without going, "Fuck off"?
sometimes you don't have to be polite, and it works very well. Like, there is no requirement to be polite to everyone.
I don't know how to do that.
He can't do that.
You have to.
It's harder for her to do that than to not do that.
Maybe it's easier for me because I worked service industry, particularly around people drinking alcohol for so long. But there has to be a switch. At some point, we're no longer being nice. Like, we're going to be nice up to a point where, okay, it's time to not be nice anymore, and you'll know. I also think it's really interesting. We talked about this a little bit last night in our prep for this episode. There's a very big difference in physicality and approachableness across us. Callie, you
I'm
are
6
very
foot freaking tall.
but you're
I
also
should be
like this
intimidating
big
at least a little
around
bit.
and a girl.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Because I think that
I'm-
there's a difference between men and women. I think that it has to do with the decorum. I think it has to do with the threat level. You're right. While I am tall, I am very thin. And I think that my threat level changes based on that. Add the fact that I'm a woman. Let me ask you multiple times if we should exchange numbers. Still
And
no.
you have a happier demeanor than Cole does.
Yeah.
Very true. I have RBF, especially walking through the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like, my natural face is kind of a scowl. It just is.
What is
But-
mine?
Not a
Sunshine.
yeah. Closer to it. But like, I'm 6'6" and large. And I have a beard and shaggy hair, and I'm normally wearing a ball cap and sunglasses. Like, I'm much more intimidating to approach than you are. And I am thankful for that. Oftentimes that's by design. Like, I don't really want you to come up and talk to me.
He has a don't F me vibe. I have that vibe
Yeah.
a lot.
Because
I
it's
don't
really interesting.
know that
It's
you
funny.
do.
You have that same vibe. Dad, who is much more similar to me physically, doesn't.
No.
Oh God,
No.
and everyone talks to him.
Because
And
he doesn't
likes him.
he doesn't radiate, don't fuck with me.
Yeah. Yeah. It is so annoying to go somewhere with him because everybody in the room in 5 minutes max is going to like him and is going to come to me and say, he is so nice. He's so very nice. Nobody ever says that about me.
Because we're not nice.
I'm nice. I'm just not really nice.
She says with a scowl.
I just
I
don't mean
know.
it.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking, maybe I don't want this to be on the internet.
Tough.
So let's dig into that a little bit. I think that again, we talked about, what is the saying? There are a million ways to skin a cat. I am not advocating for violence against cats, not at all. But I think that just because we're doing things differently doesn't mean, again, that one way is the right way or more right or the other is wrong and any of that. But I do think that we can sit here and look at, especially between the three of us, look at those skill sets and start pinpointing the strengths of each of them.
Yeah. And
So-
you know, I want to back up here just a little bit because I think it depends on what you want out of an interaction. Because some styles are right or wrong for those. Like, they're different, but I mean, it's kind of like using a wrench instead of a hammer. It's a different tool. So you're like, if I try and hammer a nail with a wrench, it may work, maybe, but it's not going to work as well as with a hammer. And
Gonna
so
take a
in
lot more
certain
effort.
scenarios for a certain outcome, I do think those different approaches can be maybe not right or wrong, but more effective.
Sure.
So, for example, if you're a bouncer in a bar, Cole's demeanor is going to definitely
be more
stop
effective.
things, be more effective than Callie, you sitting there, even though you're 6 foot tall and have pointy elbows and could probably hold your own. I mean,
Oh yeah.
for the most part. But nobody's going to believe that right off the bat. You're going to have to convince somebody of that
Yeah. I have to prove
by
it first.
additional. Yeah.
Means.
That's what you mean, right, Boo? Yeah. Interesting.
But you said something that I think that I would like for you to expound upon just a little bit, just because I want to make sure that I understand. You're talking about the intentions of what you're looking to get out of a situation or an interaction. Can you explain that to me a little bit more? I mean, because am I going to go and sign up to go be a bouncer? Probably not. Am I going to put on there that I have pointy elbows and so I can hold my own? Probably not. But I'm not going to put myself in that position. But outside of physically doing a job, what might that look like? When I go to the grocery store, my intention is to get groceries.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And because that is your intention and the skill set, the tools that you have, you get held up in the produce aisle for 15 minutes by a crazy person who wants your phone number. I don't.
Maybe he wasn't crazy. Maybe he was just lonely.
I think he was a little crazy.
If you ask multiple times to a stranger in the grocery store, are you sure you don't want to keep in touch? That's a red flag for me.
So what should I have done differently? I'm just wandering through the grocery store getting mushrooms at the time. What do I do differently?
Don't be so nice.
I mean, no, seriously.
So let me say
I'm not saying that you have to be rude, but don't let them hold you up. Right, but if that's the outcome that you want, you have to change your tool set. You have to say, it was very nice talking to you, but I have to go. You don't have to be rude, but you can also like stop being nice at a certain point.
Set your boundary and enforce it.
Yeah. Like that's a skill set. It's a tool that you have to pick up and use.
I will say it started off because he was convinced that I was an actress in a TV show, not like some random TV show that no one's ever heard of, which maybe. He was very convinced that I was in Big Bang Theory, of which I sat there going, I don't even think there's a redhead in that show. It wasn't me. No, there was. Wasn't it Penny? Nope, she's a blonde. Was it the girlfriend? Also a blonde. No, the other girlfriend. She's a brunette. Are you sure you weren't in that show? I am sure I was never in that show.
Do you think that was a ploy with nefarious intent?
Maybe not nefarious, but
see, that would have freaked me out, and I would have shut down, turned around, walked out, and it wouldn't have bothered me to be really rude.
That's the thing. Like, who cares if you hurt their feelings? You're never going to interact with them again. Like on a statistical standpoint.
I was in the produce aisle. I still had all of the meat market, all of the rest of the aisles, and dairy, all still left to go. I had to share this store with this dude.
And?
Or you could leave and come back later.
Go to a different store. Like worst case scenario. But here's the thing. If you set that firm boundary and you're like, hey, excuse me, I have to go. And he starts following you around, that's different.
That's different.
Agreed. Totally agree.
But if you never set that boundary, they don't know that is a boundary.
I did set a boundary one time in college. This guy came up and slapped me on the ass in a bar. And I grabbed him by the throat and pushed him up against a wall and said, you will never touch me or any other woman like that without permission ever again. Do you understand? And he was like, well, and I said, if you do not understand, I will make sure that you understand by removing one of your testicles.
Good for you.
And he swallowed really hard and goes, I'm so sorry, miss. I will never do that again.
Wise.
I can enforce boundaries. I think that my threshold is probably a little further out there than it should be.
Yeah.
I hate that.
No, I don't want you to hate that, though. I mean, I understand that sometimes it's a complication, but sometimes it's a real cool thing, too.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to realize that and understand that, hey, there are certain scenarios where I need to pull that boundary closer.
And that one happened to be a really hard one. I mean, he was a cute little old man. Old men love you.
Yeah.
We know this. And so it just went too far gently. And so it would be hard to know, going to set my boundary right here.
In the grand scheme of things, he was harmless. And I made it through the whole rest of the grocery store without so much as a sight of him.
Yeah.
And for that, I was thankful. Cognizant, but thankful.
Yeah.
So again, let's get back to the strengths of the differences, right? Of the different places and methodologies. So I think, and Cole, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think in general, your methodology leads to much deeper relationships, building trust, reading the rooms and being more accurate. You're spending the time to invest in picking up on who's who and what's what and what is or isn't safe, what is or isn't scary. And I
Yeah,
think that probably leads to less social burnout for you.
I'd say that's
Kind of a
true.
slow and steady wins the race methodology.
But for you, I think it's really true. You build a social lubrication. People feel seen really quickly. And there's a momentum to the way you do this. So with you, there's a lower barrier of connection,
Yeah,
which is,
mushrooms are best.
easier to circumvent. They're just different.
Yeah.
They're not
And then
wrong.
I don't think that they're wrong.
Yeah, I think we've already talked about this a little bit. I think it's easier for you to make friends. I think it's
Mhm.
easier for me to stay friends.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, because I
Wow.
think that the momentum changes. I'm fast. I think it's the turtle in the hare.
Well, you only have so much time. You only have so many resources.
Mhm.
So if you plant 1,000 seeds, but only have enough water to water 10 of them, what did you plant the other 990 seeds for?
But do you think one of those gets rewarded better socially?
I think differently.
Yeah.
Because think about it, I'm going to go through friendships, relationships with 10 different people that are only so deep. Over the same course of time, Cole's going to go through
One.
one or two people that are substantially deeper. And so
That
he
doesn't mean
knows
that
where
you
to go
don't
with
have
that.
that doesn't mean you don't have deep relationships, because you do have some deep relationships,
Yes.
but maybe the ratio is higher.
Yes.
Okay.
Different.
Okay.
And then little Miss Doolittle over here, I think that you are very purposeful and intentional with your time and with your efforts. I think that making yourself useful, being willing to go and you always say, put me to work, put me to work. And I think that your willingness to do that makes you less the center of attention. Look at me, I'm over here doing dishes, just over here doing dishes. But I think that it also makes people feel seen and stable and consistent in those situations, because depending on where else they are on the spectrum, whether they are on the outskirts watching everybody, or whether they are going and creating the small talk, or whether they are doing something else, the things that have to get done, especially as a host or a hostess, those things we know are being managed because Mecca's taken care of them. So I don't have to stop doing what I'm good at, making small talk, so that I can go and make sure that there's water out on the table for somebody.
Just to put another line on this, though, if we were all interviewing for this same job,
What a
whatever that
weird
job is.
job.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know this is dependent on what that job is, but because you relate so quickly and so easily, you're going to make friends with the interviewer pretty quick. I'm probably going to feel a little awkward because I don't quite know what my role is. You want me to clean up your desk? I mean,
But I
and
think you
call
have
is
the
going to,
job description. And I think that that's where your leverage is. Hey, let me tell you why I am the best candidate for this job, because I can do this and this and this and this, and I will take care of all of this. I will take it off of your plate and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
and you don't know that that's believable in a job interview. And Cole may just go into that interview
And start
with,
interviewing them.
I mean, do you see what I'm saying though? The reception is going to be totally different for the three of us talking to the same interviewer.
But I
And
think
you
that,
most likely will be the candidate that stands out because of
But
your friendliness.
see, I think it
no,
very much depends on the job. I don't think that that's really a fair assessment.
I think
Because if
more than
it's
depending on the job, I think it depends on the interviewer.
also true,
Because if we go back to the girl that I was
Ooh.
talking to earlier, what kind of dog do you have? There is no making friends with her.
Yeah.
And so when you come in and say, hey, I want to tell you why all of these things are going to be less of a hassle and I'll take care of them, that's going to bode well much better with her than me saying, hey, girl, what's up?
That's kind of fascinating, but you're absolutely right. It's going to depend on their demeanor
Mm-hmm.
and the
And
job,
why I
Cole. But
go back to the delta of the spectrum, which again, Cole, I think that you're right. People move and shift and all of that. But I think that if that delta is too great, one of us could totally bomb,
But
yeah,
I mean,
not
again,
be
going
well
back, if
received.
we're talking about an interview for a sales position and all three of us interview with the same interviewer and let's say it's just a robot. There is no delta there. They're simply checking your demeanor and your qualifications. Well, Callie, your demeanor, your personality is going to fit that role better than it will for Mom or I. Mom, if it's an
yeah,
administrative position, because you are meticulous
Taking
and
care of everything.
taking care of things, and your personality is going to fit that administrative role. If it's a technical position, then
yeah.
my personality, I need to observe, understand what's happening, and then implement a solution. It is going to fit that role much better just through my interpersonal skills.
That's fascinating to me.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. I just think that it's so interesting to look back, again, kind of hindsight, to start naming all of these things, going, here's where that would be really beneficial to be like Cole. Here's where that would be harder.
Yeah.
Here's where being more like Mecca would be very advantageous. Here's where that would become difficult.
Yeah.
I think just being cognizant of it can be a massive advantage, a huge boon, if you will, to say,
Oh,
hey, I know that
yes.
this is not where my strengths are. So in this specific scenario, I need to alter my usual approach.
I agree.
Knowing is half the battle.
I think it also kind of helps with that soundtrack in your mind of, gosh, I wish I was more like that. Wish I was easier with people because maybe it's just not the right personality for you. Maybe you are exactly who you're supposed to be. Interesting.
Do you ever walk into a scenario, and we kind of talked about it in the intro, do you ever walk into a scenario and go, I wish I was more like Cole? If I had Callie's chattiness, this would be easier. I
Well,
wish I could
yeah.
kind of fade into the background a little bit and still be here and still be engaged, but be useful.
Yeah. I find it absolutely fascinating to watch both of you. And I said this earlier, but it's true and you can't deny it in any way. Old men love you.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's an old guy in the room, it's not a pervert thing.
Creepy. Yeah.
No, it's not creepy. They just adore you. Cole, you're the guy, and I've watched this from the time that you were 5 years old. And maybe it is your voice, but I think there's more to it than that. Women flock to you, to listen to you, to hear you. And so I think it's very fascinating that this is gonna sound creepy, but that there's an attraction there for both of you that is almost innate.
Magnetism.
Magnetism
Mhm.
based on Cole, is that the strong silent type that draws women? And I
I've been
mean,
told by women that Cole is just like Rip from Yellowstone, and they just fawn all over him.
they do.
Strong and silent.
Can take care of it when it needs to be taken care of.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I also think, though, sitting here having this conversation, you've got Chatty Cathy Callie, you've got the Observer Cole, and you've got Mecca the Workhorse. If you look at even just how this conversation has gone, Callie is sitting here carrying things and pushing everybody through. Cole is weighing in with all of this wisdom every now and then, and Mecca is working to put all of that energy and all of that focus back on Cole and I. Not in a negative way, but that's
Just
just
to
who we
echo.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's
Wow.
so weird. Interesting.
It's interesting, and I don't think unless we'd had this conversation that it would have been quite as evident.
Obvious, right?
But when we talked about it, it was like,
Light bulb.
yes, for each one of you.
Yes.
I mean, you're like, oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I think that it was really worth doing a little bit of thinking on and pulling out some of those characteristics and questioning them, talking to
Yeah.
the two of you who I know and love and trust me and I trust and know my heart, to get some of that kind of constructive criticism. Hey, Callie, sometimes you need to be able of being more direct. You need to be able to enforce your boundaries. Hey, Mecca, you're worth more than just what you're doing. You're a good conversationalist. And I think that we can sit here, and the more that we talk about it and the more that we think about it, the more insightful it becomes, even just in
Yeah.
us independently. Spend some time.
It
Talk
was
to people
fun.
you know and love. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it will make me be a little bit more cognizant for that person that I'm observing and thinking, what's going on with them?
They're
To
definitely not
make
having fun.
to stop and think about, well, where are they at on the spectrum? What can I observe about what they're doing that will enlighten me of where they are and how can I meet them there?
Yeah. Well, and I think giving the benefit of the doubt that just because they're not like you doesn't make
Mm.
them wrong. It just
Yeah.
makes them different.
It was a fun talk.
It was. It was.
So, Callie, you've got a weird thought for us this week.
I do. So I would consider myself an avid reader. I would say both of you are as well. Mom, more voracious than some of us. But I was thinking about it this week. Whether you're listening to audiobooks or whether you're reading a physical book or a Kindle book, and I'm using books because I think it's a really direct and easy example. I love my Kindle because every now and then I'll come across a word like, I don't know what that means. And so I can highlight it and define it real quick. And you know me, with everything, I'm searching and Googling and curious and want to know. So I I have certainly heard on several occasions, if you're a reader, you're more likely to grow your vocabulary. But I don't always think that even once I know what the word is, I know how it is defined, I know how it's used, here it is and as an example, I don't think I always take that into my vocabulary. I may know it, but do I use it? How do you get your vocabulary? How do you develop your vocabulary? I kind of feel stuck.
It's
These are the
interesting that
words I
you
know,
asked
and these are
that.
the words I use.
When you start working for the company that I work for, they have you take, it's kind of like a personality test, Clifton Strengths. And one of the things that it says about me is that I am a collector, and not necessarily a collector of physical objects. Maybe it's that, but more likely it's a collector of ideas or of thoughts or words specifically. And when I went through that, I realized, and again, it's kind of that knowing is half the battle thing, but like very much I search for words to add to my vocabulary, to add that are more specific than just kind of generic definitions. Like once I hear something and like hearing it or reading it in context saying, I think I kind of know what that word means. Let me do, and Callie, this is a weird thought within the weird thought. I think it's really interesting that you and I, personality wise, are so different, but like in this aspect are very similar because I'm the same way. If I'm listening or reading something and I don't know what it means, I'm going to go find what it means. And not a lot of people are like that, but like
Really?
that, yeah, like that's how you and I approach most things is we want to understand it. And so once I find a word, and I can't even think of any off of the top of my head right now, but once I find a word that like fits a very specific use case, especially one that I use regularly, like I'm going to add that to my vocabulary and start incorporating it into my sentences. It's really funny. When I first moved over to the department that I'm in right now, the team that I was on used to like call it out because they were like, oh, dude, that's a great word. Like, you nailed that. Like, they would call it out because did it so regularly. And it's not even like I'm going out and looking for different words to use. It's I would hear a word, look to understand it, and then find a way to incorporate it into how I speak.
Mom, do you collect words and put them to work?
That's so funny. I have a page in my journal that's for new words that I write down. And maybe I don't go back, but it's because I've not heard that word. I'm also going to say Cole uses words all of the time that I think, what does that mean? And I
I'm
have
over
to go
here
look it up.
Googling.
Now I'm like you. One of my favorite things about Kindle is that if I run across a word, it's right there. I can look at it and go, oh, yeah, I can see that. Cole's going to have the etymology of the word and all of that kind of stuff in his brain. I'm not going to have that. And I might not be incorporating it immediately into my vocabulary, but I'm going to look those words up. And I know as a kid, you used to get really ticked off at me that you would come to me and ask me for something and I would tell you to go look it up. But I think that
because you always I would say, hey, Mom, how do you spell this? And you would say, go look it up in the dictionary. I'm like, if I knew how to spell it, I would be able to, but I can't. So I don't know even where to start here.
But who does that now?
Yeah.
Who looks stuff up now? So Callie, it's the muscle.
Yeah, I think it
It's
is.
the muscle that we use. And I 100% agree with Cole that there are people who do not exercise that muscle.
That blows my mind.
I know it does, but I guarantee you that there are people. That's why most of our media is written at a 5th or 6th grade level, because people have not advanced enough to do that. And don't get me wrong, I'm reading a book and they're scientists and they've used words, and I have gotten frustrated because I'm thinking, y'all are using words that nobody knows. And I've had to look a lot of them up to figure out what they were talking about. And it has been a little bit frustrating because it's more common than normal. But at the same time, I feel like I'm getting more out of it because I'm having to stop and look those words up.
Yeah. I think it's also really interesting. I've picked up myself doing this a lot recently because I communicate so much through text, through chats and emails, that I'll write something out 2 or 3 times to make sure that everything fits. And if I'm using a word that maybe not everybody knows, I will go and look that word up again to make sure that I'm using it correctly.
Me too.
All the time.
Yeah.
We say words on here, or let me rephrase that. I say words on here all the time that I think, did I use that right? Did I say that right? But it is part of expanding my vocabulary, because y'all are going to tell me if I'm wrong anyway and correct me. So I'm getting something out of it.
I just thought it was so weird. I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, how do I better incorporate these? Not just put them in my bank of knowledge, but actually put them to use. Because I know them. I'm spending the time to be curious. I'm spending the time to go look them up. Why not get something out of it on top of that? Usage.
It's also, for me, from my historical perspective, we did not baby talk y'all. We spoke to y'all. Cole could talk, and it was one of the things that fascinated people about him when he was really young. He used full sentences real early. I mean, he had a good vocabulary really early. And so I think if you want your children to excel, then you have to use that vocabulary with them and work on their vocabulary as well. And it's not like I had a list. I mean, I don't have a spelling list that y'all had to go through, but I didn't hesitate to use words that you didn't know.
I feel like
We
that's
just kept going.
the parenting version of dress for the job you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I agree with you.
Like, in general, baby talk drives me nuts. And Mom, I really think the reason, especially when I was younger, I was such a voracious reader is because you were. And I watched you read so much, and I thought it was really cool, like how fast you could get through all of that information. And so that's like, I literally remember searching for larger and larger books just to try and like keep up.
Yeah.
I do have a dog voice. It's not quite baby talk, but
Yeah.
Dogs are
I
different,
only use
though.
it on dogs. Yeah,
Yeah.
I only do it for dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Dogs are special.
Y'all ready for a good story?
Yeah.
Yep.
This is a positive story I'm very happy about. And I have to say, so my mom died of cancer 40 years ago. And Callie came to me and she said, "Do you want to do this good news story? Are you going to be okay with doing this good news story?" And I said, "Yes, because it's a positive thing." So this week, the American Cancer Society shared really encouraging news. And that is that people who've been diagnosed with cancer today are living on average about 5 years longer than just a few decades ago. That doesn't mean that cancer's gone or that it's easy. I have friends that are battling cancer right now, different kinds, and I hate that. But it does mean that we've progressed somehow, and that earlier detection and better screening and targeted treatments and even new therapies are giving people something incredibly meaningful. More time with family, more milestones, more ordinary days that end up mattering a whole lot. And so it hasn't happened overnight. It's the result of a lot of decades of research and advocacy and people just refusing to stop pushing for better outcomes. There's still work to do, especially around access and prevention, but this is a real reminder that science and persistence saves life. It's not flashy. Sometimes it's just this. People are living longer, and that matters.
Love you guys.
Love you too.